Welcome to CU Interviews, a production of Gorecom, in which we get together small cap executives to find out what's going on at their companies. And today, we really want to find out what's going on at this company because it's a brand new listing. It's December 21st. It's Fabled Copper, trades on the CSE on the stock symbol FABL. With us, you can see him on the screen. A lot of you already know who he is. Peter Hawley, who's president and CEO of Fabled Copper. Why this is such a great conversation? A number of them. But first, big picture. The world needs copper. Global copper consumption is outstripping supply. Right now, the demand for copper is expected to rise by 5% a year, outstripping supply, which is projected to increase by just 2.3% a year. Where's a lot of that coming from? Well, as an example, a new electric vehicle needs 80 kilos of copper compared to just 23 kilos in our basic internal combustion engine vehicle that we're all used to. Why is that great news for Fabled Copper? Well, as you can imagine from the name, they're exploring high-level, high-grade copper resources in BC, where their main focus is the Muskwa property, which has a high-grade mining history. I always love to hear that, where they already has a mining history, containing a minimum of 22 documented copper occurrences, of which 4 are defined deposits with historical reserves and resources. So this isn't just going out in the field for a walk. They've got something great going on here. For example, at their Neil claim block, there are 10 copper occurrences where they've assayed as much as 10.2% copper over 3 meters. Davis Keys, they got a historical indicated reserve. Historical is key. 3.7 million tons at 2.5% copper. And the Magnum vein between 1970 and 1974 milled about 550,000 tons, grading 3% copper. Along with that fantastic team with 200 years of history, Fabled Copper has got a great future in front of it. Peter, welcome back. Congratulations, my friend.
Thanks, George. And you're doing such a good job. I was enjoying just listening to you, to tell you the truth.
You almost went off to grab a sandwich and come back.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, like I've always said, it's easy to tell a good story when you have a good story. And man, you guys have got something great going on. How did this fall into the hands of Fable shareholders at a time when copper is busting out and there's major demand for projects like this? How are we so lucky to get it?
Oh, that's a long story and a lot of arm wrestling, George. but the, what's interesting about the Muskwa project is a couple of things, and in an area of about 4 miles by 6 miles, you have a tremendous amount of copper occurrences, and a lot of them extremely high grade. And then outside of that select area, there's nothing. There's nothing, zero. So
Oh,
that's right. So the question is why in this one particular area? And as the shareholders and the public will find out over the next little while from what we found out during our 2011 field work, is not only the intensity and the quality and the quantity of mineralization that's there, but the grades of some of this stuff is almost unheard of, to the point where, if you could, some of it you could send it directly to a smelter. I mean, there's nothing you can't do any more to it. So not a bad problem to start with.
and with copper trading comfortably here between 4.20 and $4.80 per pound,
Mhm.
which is up more than 100% since the beginning of January of 2020,
Yeah.
more than 100%, whereas around $2 back then.
Yeah.
Do these prices, I know it's early, but are these prices comfortable for Fabled Copper? Or, some companies are, when they get into the metals game, they're counting on the projected price of a metal in the future in order to become, really viable. Do these numbers work for you, given what you think you know? And I know it's early, but are you comfortable here?
Well, it's really, really funny, George. I can actually remember when I was a young guy working, and I remember when copper broke $1 a pound, and that was big news. Like, that was huge, and people couldn't imagine it. Now, when the Magna mine was in production in the late '60s and early '70s, they were producing at a profit. with 70-cent copper.
And that, by the way, that's the one we talked for everybody home. That's the one that between 70 and 74 milled
Correct.
550,000 tons.
Correct.
So that was profitable back then, under $1.
Yeah. So the difference now is, they've gone in and identified the target, if you wanted to call it that, and they've done all the development work, and it's sitting there at a much higher, or basically 4 times higher or more, 5 times higher or more of copper price. So what a thing to start with, to build on, George. I mean, gee, it's not often you walk into something like this.
What's your level of confidence that you're going to be able to repeat the success over there on Muskwa in general, but especially at places like, Magnum and Neil?
Yeah.
Because the devil's advocate side says, well, at some point somebody must have abandoned these, thinking that they just weren't viable anymore. So why does Peter think that he's going to be able to really extract great value out of these?
Yeah. No, I think that's an excellent question, George, and right to the heart of it. The one, all of it is interesting to me on different levels of geology. One is, the big picture. Why, what could you find there? That's one picture. And the other picture is, narrowing it down into a scenario that's, yes, you have enough and you want to put it into production or whatever, and does it have that? Now, I was fortunate enough, and it took about 8 months, but through various people that are much older than I am, but were familiar with the area in the 60s and 70s, I managed to get the paper physical copies of all the plans for both mines.
Amazing. Somebody still had that.
Well, it wasn't one. It wasn't one person. I'll tell you that. And in addition to that, George, I got the original feasibility studies.
Now, what did they tell you?
Now, well, feasibility study said yes, the deposit's economic enough, it's worthwhile to put it into production, and they went ahead and put it in production. But on the Davis Key Eagle vein, where they went in and developed it, 100% development, no extraction. If there was any extraction, it was development, or because they had to put in a drift or a crosscut or a raise or something like this. And that never entered into production because the change in government with the BC going to NDP in the early 70s and the royalties, and they imposed on the companies, killed everything. So you asked me, do you think that the information's real or not? Well,
no, not real. More just what is that you're seeing there? Because at some point, somebody probably, obviously, the previous owners abandoned it or moved on. So what is that you're seeing that that makes you feel as if, well, I know we can extract great value here, which I believe you can, by the way. But I'm sure it's something investors are thinking about.
Yeah. Well, I have no doubt. I wouldn't be waste my time here, George, if I didn't think I could either. But it wasn't that their downfall that they shut down. They were forced to shut down by an imposed royalty by a government,
right?
And that's what killed them. And if that didn't happen, they would have been off to the races, and there wouldn't have been anything there for me to find. But the neat thing is last summer, and people will see videos of this and they'll see information coming out. But last summer, we were fortunate for the first time in over 25 years to get underground at the Davis Keys mine. And I personally led the team on August the 11th, and we got through one of the portals through the ice and snow. And we went in and mapped and structures and everything else. And I can assure you, and people will see the evidence shortly thereafter, that it indeed is true, and it is mind-boggling. So
I love the fact that you're using those kind of words, because you don't use those kind of words lightly. You've had discovery, so you don't need to use hyperbole.
And no, but it all comes back to the original thing I said, that this quantity of copper that's so concentrated in a small area. And when you see that, you say, what is it? What's driving this thing? So where this is all leading up to, George, is from all the work. we gathered all the historical work that's been done on the property, whether sampling or whatever, from to underground work. We've gotten all that information. We've started to digitize and put it into today's XYZ format. During the summer of 2011, we had a team of about 10 there. We had geophysicists there.
But you said 2011 earlier, so
Oh,
you got.
sorry, 2021.
I was going to say 2011.
Yeah.
Did you go back in the time machine? Go on.
Yeah, no, senior moment there. Sorry about that.
No, happens to all of us when the year flips over. I make the same mistakes.
But we had a very dispersed team there. Structural geologists, PhD structural geologists. We had PhD structural strategists. They were looking for markers that we could use to define between different formations and what formation causes what mineralization at what time sequence, and all this other stuff. We had boots on the ground guys that just went out and just broke rock all over the place.
Drones.
Yes, we did. We
had drones.
Yep. Dr. Vanessa had her various drones, and we flew 6 separate surveys over the claim blocks in certain areas. And not only did it compose of mapping and helping the guys on the ground, but also 3-dimensional 3D tilt mesh modeling. And part of the purpose of that, as people will find out as we let our results go, is we're taking everything that everyone has done in the past and using that as the basic building blocks to build on in our new, if you want to call it, technical age of all these toys we have now, George.
Yeah.
So now that I have all the drill sections and all the level plans in the mines and the cross drifts and samplings and et cetera, we have them digitized, and then we're creating a 3-dimensional wireframe of the mineralized body. And then draped on top of that will be...
Would that be the source? You think you found...
Well, it's one of many pointing to the source. But where I'm going with this is draped on top of that will be some of the drone work. And we have one tie-in point between underground and surface, which we surveyed quite a bit in detail when I was there. So that'll be the link between the two underground and surface. And so at that point in time, we'll be able to look at the resolution of the ground on surface in 3 dimensions at an accuracy of 10 centimeters. Tied into that will be the mineralized body underneath it, as defined by the underground workings and all the drilling and sampling that they did and everything else. And what that will do for us will not only show us the projection of that body of where it's going across the countryside, but it will allow us to pinpoint the exact locations for drill collars for the optimum pierce point at depth, because this thing has never been drilled below the surface floor valley. And the reason why was there's no reason to you to drill below the surface floor valley, because you have a mountain and you see it go up the mountain, across the top, you see it down the other side. So
now, devil's advocate, can someone at home say, with a lot less geological experience than you, why don't you stay above the mountain? Why don't you stay up there where you know it all is? Why bother trying to drill further down for now?
Well, bigger is better, right? So what you want to know, because it's all scales, right? So for an example, when the Magnum mine was working, they installed a 750 ton per day concentrator. So they were concentrating the mineralization, George. It was fairly high grade to begin with, 2.5%, 3%, and then they would concentrate it and then they'd send it directly to the smelter like that. So for the size of the ore body and for the size of the tons that they had at that time, the feasibility said the optimization rate would be 750 tons a day. So what would happen if the ore body was 10 times greater? It wouldn't be 750 tons a day. It'd be a much greater rate per day. So you better, if you're going to start spending serious money down the road looking at a mining operation or what is the economics behind this, you better have a very good idea, or you should have a very good idea, what's the scale of this thing, and what's the potential.
So when do you think we'll get a chance to see the 3D? Well, when are you guys going to see it? Then when might we see this 3D model?
Oh no, that'll go under top secret. No, I'm just kidding you. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we're certainly looking forward to it. I'm expecting a FedEx package with the certain parts of the drone data that I need, the raw footage. We can't do a cloud dump; it's just too heavy for us, so I got to get it physically. I did receive last night, and I'm not just saying this; it actually was last night. All the digitization of all the plans, sections, and maps for the Davis Key deposit. So I got to find enough hours in the day to sit down and take some of that and put it in one of my programs and create a three-dimensional model. And then as soon as I get the drone data in, then I can attach one to the other, and then we'll start showing that to the public. So if you're asking me when, I'd say month and a half, 2 months.
It sounds like though you're pretty confident that you're going to have something great to go out and find.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I'm not trying to pretend that I'm this brilliant guy that found these things. No, no, no. They were found, except you know they weren't fully explored. Number one, and number two, in today's world, since 1960s George to today, there's been a lot of advances in
So this is like
exploration.
one of those sci-fi movies where something from the past they didn't, and then they look at it with new technology, and lo and behold, they discover some alien being or civilization or whatever the case may be.
Well, actually, speaking of that, I think I sent you a screenshot of a test run of an underground drone that was done. If you remember seeing that.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, yeah. So they're having underground drones
That's
now.
unbelievable. You got a drone flying underground.
Yeah, mapping everything.
That's fantastic.
Now, well, the funny thing is, there's two groups doing it in the world. And one is based out of St. John's, Newfoundland, Memorial University, and they're on the cutting edge of doing this, a special LiDAR underground sensing. And the person that's heading that up with the University of Memorial University just by fluke, just happens to be the same person that's doing my drone work and everything else. So I suspect that if I if I'm a really good boy, that I might be able to get to play with that sooner or later. So if I could do that and bring that underground into those old workings, that would be like a night and day. That would be something.
So what does 2022 look like then? Are you obviously waiting for the 3D model so you can finalize drill targets? You haven't finalized drill targets yet, obviously.
No, I haven't, and I have to apply for drill permits, and we're in the mountains, and you can imagine, you have to have a stable platform. You build platforms to drill off of, but you want to be in a fairly level place, ideally. So we have to choose our drill collars or drill platforms very carefully, and then also when we apply for the permits, we can't move things around. Well, it might be around here or something. It doesn't work that way. So that will come, and that will be developed. We're all working very hard on this. I've actually had 2 or 3 calls today about starting to put together the 2022 exploration drill program, which
But,
will.
but it sounds like you're going to be beginning from a much elevated space, much
Well,
elevated
what? Yeah,
foundation of information.
it,
You really
it
hit
is.
the ground running.
Yeah, it is. I already have the drill company reserved. I have multiple workers on standby, and outfitters lining up, and expediters lining up. It's going to be a very big thing. The the great thing about this year's work was we got to view everything. Um, Usually the window is fairly short in that neck of the woods, and this year we had a very long window, so we got to see everything. So when we go back this summer again, and the one main focus is drilling, and that will be done one way or another. But in addition to that, because we've looked at everything and evaluated in-house ourselves, is that we'll be doing further work on some of these showings because these are out of 20 that are there, these are the top 5 that we find really interesting, you know what I mean? So it'll become more concentrated work and you'll find out more and everything else.
I was about to ask you that. I was about to say, where do you start? Because at Magnum Vein, you had, a historical mine. At Neil, you've got
Yep.
10.2% copper. At
Yep.
Davis Keys, you got historical reserves.
Yep.
So will you at some point have to pick which child to favor, or because proximity and your resources, can you kind of take a look at all of them? How do you think it plays out?
Well, I think number one, you start with the easiest ones, George, and for me, I would like to get a drill into Davis Keys because it's not exploited, it's completely developed, and if I can start showing, this thing's got legs and everything else, then the next thing you want to do is re-enter the mine and start drilling from underground at the lowest level and all the rest of the stuff. So that would set the stage for a more advanced drill program for the next year. Again at Davis Keys, I don't know if it'll happen this year, but if it's not this year, it'll be next year. You'd probably want a bunch of engineering students with you, or young geologists coming from school, whereas you would be having them work under supervision underground to resample all the data that we have and resample the blocks. And then that would be now going into be 43-101 compliant. You know what I mean? So you're going to be able to take this historical stuff and turn it around and bring it into today's world, plus with all the new toys we have, and set the stage. So I think we're off to the ground running. We are very successful in raising a lot of money. We have a great crew. Some of the guys that came on the board of directors, Louis and Pat and Brian and all these great guys. I've known them for years and years.
We gotta have a team Zoom with all of them on it one day, just so we can have a fireside chat.
Oh yeah, it'd be quite the chat, I'm telling you. But they were in retirement and they weren't interested in coming on boards, and they came on boards, and they're all, we're all going up there this year. I mean, it's going to be interesting for sure.
And by the way, for fabled silver and gold investors,
Yep.
They got a nice Christmas present under the tree from Uncle Peter, with a 5-for-1, 1-for-5,
Correct.
dividend of fabled copper.
Yeah, and I know it's free and you can do whatever you like with it. But I would tell you, we're just getting going here, so hang on to it. It'll be a lot fatter in your stocking next year.
Well, the market is in your favor, clearly. History is in your favor, given what's already been discovered there. And like you said, if it wasn't for the NDP's royalty program, there probably wouldn't be anything left there for you to find today. But you had this great, milling going, this great mine going for 4 or 5 years. So everything seems to be going in your favor. I can't wait to see the 3D model. But what does the next 6 months look like? Do we wait around for the 3D model? What happens if you can give everyone just a bit of a
yeah, sure. No, my pleasure. So what will start happening starting next week, George, is we'll be putting out weekly news releases on all the information that we've generated in 2021. And
okay, so there's a lot of news to come then.
Oh yes, I have enough information right now as we compile it and put it out, and as I plan our working process going forwards, excluding updating any shareholders on what our plans are for 2022. I probably have enough information to keep people interested until the end of July.
Holy! So
Yeah.
all that, I didn't realize you guys had created so much work product out of the 2021 program.
Oh, huge amount of data, crazy amount of data.
I know you have. I know we got to wait for the data itself, but uh, were you able, at least just by looking at things, have an indication of whether it'll be favorable, or should we just not say
Oh,
anything?
sure. I mean, yeah.
Just
Well,
eyeballing it.
what's really funny is that numerous copper occurrences. No one has gone back to look at these things since the '60s, right? A lot of these things. So they were evaluated in the '60s by Churchill mines or whatever. They didn't make the cut, so and they decided on Magnum mine or whatever. So a lot of these didn't make the cut. Well, there's I'll tell you, there was certainly some surprises for us because we were kind of a looking at certain occurrences that were very low on the ranking and came back, you know, very, very, very impressed and just like, whoa, this should be something done with this. So yeah, I think the people are going to find out just why this is so unique. It is really something. It honestly, it is. And if we can find out what the trick is behind all of this, like, and when I say that is just what is driving this thing, like the big picture. Yeah, that would be something to.
I'll end with this anecdotal point on my end. In order to get to this point, you spun off Fabled Copper Corp from inside Fabled Silver
Yeah,
Gold.
yeah.
You went through an incredible amount of time, expense, energy, dealing with regulators to get to this. So I'm going to say anecdotally, you guys already knew enough to say, hey, this is worth it, because Fabled Silver Gold could keep you busy all year round as is. Not like you're looking for a new job, right? So you think that's am I stretching that assumption to
No,
say,
no,
hey,
no, no, no.
Peter's
You're right. You're right.
this much effort, they must they must have a high level of confidence here.
Oh, I no, no, absolutely. I mean, that this is not something, that you've heard the old expression "moose pasture." You know, someone's hoping to
No,
find a
no,
sniff
definitely
of
not that.
copper or something like this. And I'm telling you, George, it's very impressive because you're sitting there at a valley floor, and you see this mineralized malachite on the wall on a vein, huge vein going up a mountain, and you look up, and for 1,700 meters, it just goes up and up and up and up. And then take a chopper and you fly up to the top
Unbelievable.
of 1,700 meters and you walk on this thing for maybe 1.4 kilometers. And there it is. And then there's the other side of the mountain going down, and boom, there's all the like you can see it. It's three dimensional, right? You can see it.
Well, until we get the three dimensional, the next one would be great. Let's use some imagery there so we can kind of relate. It'd be good to have three or four cool images. I mean, I think this one's important just to get a big picture discussion. But now that we've all got a nice taste and feel for this, I think it'd be great to do a deeper dive on the next one and actually see some photos,
Well,
imagery, some maps, and give us an idea. But I love the excitement, Peter. I love I'm able to read you a little bit, and the excitement feels very promising.
well, George, this is what it's all about, right?
Oh, look
One
at that!
1 kilo pure silver, right? Or pure copper, excuse me, right there.
And that looks like a beauty. I got to tell you, you think you got a few more of those you might be able to pull out of Muskwa?
Oh, I'm sure we'll find a few of those. I've been dragging that bar around for 2011, since 2011. That's where the number came from, probably.
Oh, that's why. Okay, that's where the 2011 was in your head.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, Peter, hey, thanks for showing this. Maybe next time what we should do is do a giveaway. You know, people right after an interview got to post something, got
Well,
to do
you know
something,
what we'll do? We'll
and
take the
we send them
bar.
one of those because it looks
Well,
like a
or we'll take one of these and then we'll start cutting it off, right? Giveaway. We'll give away this much of the bar and then this much.
beauty. But thanks, Peter. These are always amazing, and the fact that you're surrounded by some pretty professional folks, you guys know what you're doing, and to have brought Fabled Copper to this point on behalf of all Fabled Silver investors, first of all, and then all new Fabled Copper investors, I want to say thanks on behalf of everybody. We appreciate the kind of effort and energy you went through to get to this point, and now can't wait to see what's going to come of it in the next 12 months and beyond.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, George, and I'll say thanks for the shareholders for making it happen, but also, in my case, some of these friends and colleagues that have decided to join the board of Fabled Copper, what they're bringing to the table and their expertise, and some of it is specifically in this area, it's going to add a lot to our success, I believe.
Well, when I hear guys came out of retirement for it, look, retirement's pretty sweet right now. So if guys came out of retirement, it means they really, really want to be a part of something. They've seen something they like. So can't wait to have you back on, my friend.
Okay. Be well, George.
And to you, Peter, and the whole gang. For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform, to Peter Hawley, CEO and president of Fabled Copper. You've seen him before for Fabled Silver Gold. Today, Fabled Copper, newly listed. That's what I love. So open game for everybody out there who may like copper and looking for something new and exciting, because it was listed as of December 21st. FABL is the symbol in Canada. To do your due diligence, two ways. Get to Agoracom, find the Fabled Copper profile page, take a look at that, because we'd like to give you a nice big summary of what's happening. And then from there, link directly over the website to do your deep dive due diligence. Look, guys, if you believe in the future of copper, if you believe in electric vehicles, if you believe that demand for copper is outstripping supply, and if you love what Peter's holding up right there and want a piece of that, then do your due diligence. And hopefully today you discovered your next amazing small cap copper company. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time.
Bye.
Hey guys, this video is over, but don't forget to help your company by liking it and even leaving a comment below. And then don't forget to help yourself by subscribing to our channel and never missing another great Agoracom small cap video.